Welcome, everybody, to episode 114 of Disney with the Ducks. Tonight, you've got me, John Krull, and I'm joined by Lonnie,
Meow.
Gene,
Howdy.
and that's it. So we've got just the three of us tonight. And before we get into the episode, we want to ask everybody to please go out, give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcatcher, then go to your next favorite podcatcher and give us another 5-star review and write some good words. We'd really appreciate that. And then you can come over and join our Facebook group, Disney with the Ducks. And you can also follow us on Instagram as well. So you can and find us on YouTube. Click that like and subscribe button. You know, do all the things that add to the algorithm. All right. So tonight we've got a question so that we can get to know each other a little bit better. And we can also let our listeners get to know us a little better. Tonight's question is, what was your first job? So Lonnie, what was your first paid employment?
Well, I think you said paid. This limited because my first job was probably my dad's indentured servant. But since you said paid, my first paid job was at a chemical plant. When I graduated from high school, it was at Exxon Chemical. It was in Baton Rouge, so I had to drive to Baton Rouge every day to work this job, and it was the first one. But every summer we kind of did an internship at a different chemical plant. Because, of course, that's what they had in Louisiana, right, where we were. But the one thing I think I really, there's nothing I enjoyed about the job because they always gave us the hardest jobs, right? And one day I remember having a conversation with a guy who's been working in this plant for like 30 years or something like that, about to retire. And I asked him, I said, do you guys just don't like us? I mean, why do you haze us every day? And he says, young man, the reason why we all treat you the way we do is because we want you guys, number one, to develop a good work ethic, but two, to keep you guys in college because we don't want you to get enamored by the money working here and you drop out of college and then you have regret, right? So that is one thing I always took to heart what he said, and I used that when I kind of was raising my kids to get jobs. I want you to stay in school and not just fall for the easy money now, but to work toward a career. So that was the first job. Hated it, but learned so much from those old guys that was there for so long. A lot of good skills.
That's interesting you say that, Lonnie, because I had a similar experience. It wasn't my first job, but one of my summers or two of my summers in college, my dad worked for the UAW at a Ford plant. So he got me a job as a summer temp worker to fill in when people are on vacations, etc. And I loved it. I mean, it was, afternoon shift, 2 to 11, sometimes with overtime. I never thought I would make that much money in my life. And of course, I mean, I'm an 18-year-old, right? Like on summer break. And at the end of that summer, I told my dad, I'm like, I don't know if I want to go back to school because I could just do this. Like, you do this, you make a lot of money. We have, a good life and all that. And he said the same thing. He's like, no, I do this for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and hurt myself physically and everything. So you don't have to do that. And it's really, like you said with those guys, I mean, it's stuck with me my whole life. And I'm trying to teach my kids the same thing too, right? If you're not going to go to school, you're going to go to some type of technical education, or you're going to go learn a trade. You're going to do something that can give you skills and provide more value than a lot of just like digging ditches and stuff. So, same idea though, right? Is like, go learn to do something. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's funny, different places, different areas, but the same life lessons.
Yeah.
To keep. So
and
it's
coming from the older,
that generation is they're special.
Yeah, but what you said about like the work ethic, I mean, it's unparalleled, I think, or whatever, unmatched by people in that 60 to 80-year-old age range. But no, my first job, I was actually 14, and I started working at our local rec center, keeping score for basketball games and for men's league softball games. You have never seen people get so angry as when you take 2.3 seconds to put up a score after a kid hits a bucket. I mean, these people, and this was like the 90s, right? There was no rules. There was no cell phones. So people would just yell at you and they could never get caught. So, yeah. And then the men's softball league, I thought they were going to be the ones that were rough, but they all had a few drinks and were having fun, and they didn't really care too much. So it was interesting. But, yeah, that was my
first. You said this was the 90s?
Yeah, this would have been like 95-ish.
It was the rap music. All the angry rap music made those people angry.
You
That's
know, it
why I
might
hate
have, and eventually it turned me
it.
very angry inside. So
Mhm.
yeah, no, you're right. Should have listened to more like Barry White.
Exactly.
Right?
Mellow
Yeah,
all of them down. Just mellow.
yeah. All right, Gene, what was your first job?
Yeah, so my dad worked for the phone company, and they were union, and they worked on a contract, and every few years the contract went, they renegotiated it. And there's one year when I was 11 that my dad knew they were really far apart and could see a strike coming. And so my dad walked my grandparents' neighborhood, and on his first Monday without work, we loaded up the family station wagon with our lawn equipment that we use for our house, and we started cutting yards in my grandparents' neighborhood. And 6 weeks later, when we went back to work, we had the Dairy Queens in our area. We had a couple of trailer parks. We had a couple of apartment buildings and like 30 yards. And I absolutely hated it. And he didn't pay me very much, but I kept doing it for several years. And for some dumb reason, in high school, I decided I want to go work at like a hamburger place. I didn't want to sweat. I want to work in a hamburger place for $4 an hour or whatever they paid back in 1964 or whatever. And I don't know what I was thinking, but at some point I kept it going for a while, but at some point I gave it up, and I shouldn't have. It was such a great business that we had going for a long, long time. And it was good money. I always had, not a lot, because my dad didn't want me to have too much money in my pocket, but a little bit of spending money in my pocket, and made me responsible for, they spend this much on, clothes or whatever. And if I wanted, they'd buy jeans from Montgomery Ward. If I wanted Levi's, then I could spend the rest of the money for it or whatever, taught me so much about my dad providing for our family. But it also, a work ethic that, taught me a lot. And to this day, I'm so particular about my own yard because of all these old ladies that made me, were so particular and made me do certain things. And so now I'm like that with my yard. Like, no, you have to give some of it up. But like if my son cuts the grass, or if I've ever had to pay anybody to cut my grass, it's never as good as, my son can cut the grass in an hour and it takes me 3, but it was great memory. I hated it. Taught me a lot. I hated getting up on Saturday morning. I hated getting off of football practice and my dad picking me up with a trailer, full of lawn equipment. And we go, cut a yard or two after football practice. But it taught me a lot.
That's an awesome story, Gene. I tell you, one thing Gene did say, man, I think Gene was highfalutin because he had Levi's. I mean, we all know, you had to have tough skins. So if you had Levi's, man, you were highfalutin.
No, I mean, I had tough skins up to a certain point, and I wasn't doing it anymore. I added to that,
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, man. Those tough skins they were tough. I think they probably were bulletproof, man. John doesn't.
My mom ironed patches on the inside of all my jeans because I'd wear through the knees.
Oh yeah, that was a Sears special, John. When you have tough skins, you got it from Sears.
Okay, that's good to know.
I think it was Sears and Roebuck, so it was different.
I do know I had the Husky jeans, whatever brand it was when I was a kid.
It was.
Yeah, it was the Husky version. So
Gene's not fat. He's just portly.
Mm-hmm. he's just pleasantly plump.
Yeah, cool. Get these extra wide pants. We'll call him Husky.
Hard to kidnap.
All right. Well, tonight we're going to talk about another decade of Disney movies. So tonight we're getting into the 1960s. So, where the hippies are coming around. There's a lot of movies that, as we were preparing for this, I didn't realize how many great movies there were in the 60s out of Disney. So what we want to do tonight is we're going to talk about our favorite movie from the 60s. We're going to talk about what we think are underrated films of the 60s and what we think are overrated films of the 60s. So we're going to try to work our way through a lot of these, but obviously we're going to have some that you guys love that we don't mention. So make sure you come over to our Facebook group, Disney with the Ducks, and tell us what your favorite, your most underrated, and your most overrated Disney movies from the 1960s are. And I'm going off of a list on Wikipedia of Walt Disney Studios 1960s films. So I don't know what you guys are using, but
I mean, it's got to be legit.
Right. I'm using my cranium, man. Okay. I'm going by memory because we were there. Me and Gene were in the 60s.
All right.
No.
So yeah, were you guys born in the 1960s for real?
No.
Oh, my sister was. Not to like,
But you
tell
know
her
what they
age.
say, if you remember the 60s, you weren't
Weren't
you weren't there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was a lot of great music too, and there's some good music through some of these films as well. Lonnie, why don't you kick us off with what do you think is? Let's get the negative out of the way. What do you think is your most overrated?
Most overrated. And I went back and forth with this, right? But I'm gonna be honest with you. I think when you think about Disney in the 60s, I'm gonna go with a classic film of 1968, Planet of the Apes. Now, I know what you're saying. You're probably thinking, that's not a Disney film. Well, you know what?
Oh.
It's a 20th Century Fox film, which is owned by Disney now. So technically Disney owns that. And when you think about it, I mean, okay, let's just do it, right? I mean, they have so many spin-offs from it, right? And rightfully so. The budget was $5 million. It made $33 million. So back then, that was a huge hit, right? In the 60s. But I think if you go back to its core, man, I mean, I just didn't like the whole concept of what it stood for, right? I mean, these astronauts, they wake up in this foreign place, and all of a sudden they want to spark anarchy and stuff and take over. And it's just, hey, you crash landed on their planet, right? These are people being apes, I guess. But still, so I think that's very overrated. I think it has some subliminal messages at the bottom. So I'm going to say for overrated, Planet of the Apes, 1968.
Okay.
Didn't every movie really, though, in the 60s have some sort of a message, some sort of subtle undertone? I mean, Star Trek did. I mean, it was a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Batman did, TV show. Planet of the Apes did. Everything did. That's the art. That's art. Right?
I mean, you can call it art. Yes.
All right, Lonnie, how about something that was produced by Walt Disney Studios in the 1960s?
John, look, when something comes to mind, I say it, right? I can't have, you trying to turn me away.
You can't put Lonnie in a corner.
Yeah.
Nobody puts Lonnie in a corner.
Good Lord.
And I mean, golly, man.
I mean,
you're gonna respect me as a duck, in my opinion, or you're not. I mean, hey.
I'm gonna say my favorite band of the 60s was probably Led Zeppelin. But gosh,
So what's funny about this is John is the biggest rule breaker, and John has a problem with you breaking the rules.
That's the part that gets me. It's the craziest thing.
Isn't it ironic?
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna give like 10 movies, but I give one, he's like, that's not the rule.
All right, this is like rain on our wedding day. Let's get this thing back on track.
Yes. So,
Gene,
and I'll get back on track, and I'll still say Planet of the Apes, 1968.
Okay. At the end, though, if I remember correctly, didn't they end up getting to the beach and they see the Statue of Liberty? So they were on Earth. They weren't on some foreign planet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, they probably nowadays would call it the multiverse.
Do you think
they were ahead of their time?
Or the future?
Boom.
What if it's the future of the multiverse?
A lot of people think when they awoke from their sleep from the ship that they were in the future. So,
yeah. It could be the future of the multiverse Earth.
As opposed
to
the newer versions where the statue of Abraham Lincoln is the ape's face. And so that's an alternate past.
Yeah, that's true because wow. Well, Lonnie, sparked a good discussion there about Planet of the Apes. Gene, what are you thinking is an overrated movie of the 60s from Disney?
I mean, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but because it's beloved by many, but Miracle of the White Stallions, I mean, I know you're familiar with it. In 1963, I mean, it's an adventure war film. Robert Taylor, of course, Lily Palmer, Eddie Albert. It's about Operation Cowboy, and the evacuation of horses from a Spanish riding school in Vienna. But it's just, I think it just gets too much hype, man,
Yeah, I mean, you hear about it a lot.
I mean, they played it every Saturday.
Just about.
For a while. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one.
I mean, I like Eddie Albert. Don't get me wrong. He's good in everything,
I mean, I've heard of it once, and it was tonight. So I'm excited to check out Miracle of the White Stallions, even though Gene thinks it's overrated.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, mine
He was
actually.
in Green Acres. I know you saw Green Acres. He was the guy in
I
Green
did
Acres.
see Green Acres. Yeah.
Goodbye, City Life.
Mm-hmm.
I mix it up though with the other one with the hillbilly guys and the truck and the.
The Beverly Hillbillies?
Yes. I don't know why. I think maybe because my mom
Clampets?
made me watch them both
No,
on the
that's
same
completely
day.
different, man. The Clampets are different.
And they probably are, but it's
Texas
that era.
Tea.
To be quite honest, I don't, you might have guessed this maybe, but if not, that I just kind of faked that a little bit. I don't know that movie. I just kind of picked it off the list. Of the movies that I'm familiar with in the 60s, I really don't have an overrated one because they all have a lot of nostalgia for me because like when I was little and we got the Disney Channel for the first time, these are the movies that showed all the time, and there's so many good ones. And these are the movies that showed on The Wonderful World of Disney on Sunday nights,
I love The Wonderful World.
And so, I mean, so many great movies. I don't know how I've got a list. I tried to narrow down a list of my favorite ones, the best, those that bring back the best memories. And man, I got a list, so underrated is hard for me with this.
Okay. Well,
overrated.
Overrated. Yeah. I mean, I have no problem saying that this 1961 film is horribly overrated. But the new version of it with Cruella is amazing. So
you think 101 Dalmatians is overrated?
I do. I think it's overrated. I don't really like it. I don't know why.
Man. Send all hate mail to John Crawl at Disney with the Ducks.
Yeah. At DisneyWithTheDucks.com.
And that's JEFF.POS. No, I don't know what it is. I've never liked it. I tried to watch it as a kid. I think I was too scared because I loved animals and puppies and stuff. But also at the same time, like watching it now, I don't find it entertaining. Like I don't like the music in it that much. I don't really have a character I like identify with or anything like that. So I don't know. That's it though.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, I feel like a lot of people might take issue with that because people seem to love it, but I don't. But have you guys seen the new Cruella one with I forget her name, but God, that was just great. I love that movie. I like how they make them seem more human, the villains in some of those origin story stuff. All right. If we're going to talk overrated or underrated, overrated, we need to do the opposite as well because, equal and opposite reactions, right? So the most underrated movie of the 1960s from Walt Disney Studios. Gene, let's start with you this time.
Yeah, so that's another one that I think there's a lot of these that probably a lot of people haven't heard of, but I have one that I never hear anything about, but it starred a young Kurt Russell, and it's called Follow Me Boys, and it's about a Boy Scout troop, and I saw it at the movies on a Saturday or whatever where they would show in the summertime old movies. My aunt brought me and my cousins to go see it, and we loved it. We were singing the songs afterwards. To this day, I could still sing the theme song. I'm not joking.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And when you said Kurt Russell, the only movie I could think of with him in it was The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes for some reason.
No, he was a little boy,
Okay. So yeah,
he has a long history with Disney.
Yeah.
It was Fred McMurray's in it, he and Kurt Russell both are in a lot of Disney films,
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, so that one, it sounds interesting though. It's an adaptation of a 1954 novel, God and My Country, by McKinley Cantor. Well, that's fun.
I'd watch it again today. I haven't seen it since I was probably, 10 years old, maybe younger than that, 7 or 8 years old.
That's awesome. I have to check that out. I've never heard of that one either. Man. All right, Lonnie, what do you got? What's your most underrated movie of the 60s from Disney?
Okay, so, like Gene, I loved a lot of them, but I'm going to go with this one because it actually bombed at the office. The budget was $3.5 million and it only made 1.6. And that is Snow White and the Three Stooges. Now, look, maybe it's because it starred Mo, Larry, and Joe, not Curly. I think
Not Curly.
was a game changer.
And I would put Shemp above
I would put Shemp
Joe
above
also,
Joe
right?
too. Yeah, Joe was one that I was like the least of my favorite Three Stooges, right? Curly was my favorite, of course. And if you didn't like Curly, you had an issue.
I like Shemp though. Shemp's good.
Shemp's good. Don't get me wrong. But Joe was kind of, Joe was Joe. But anyway, so
wait 1 sec. Now I know how Gene feels when we talk about Disney.
That's an incredible insight, John.
Yes. Okay.
John is bringing it tonight, man. He's bringing it.
You are bringing it.
Keeping us on track. He's trying to stymie our
creativity. You don't know the Three Stooges?
You're actually playing the role of Jody.
I know who they are.
I am very impressed by
I
it.
am. I naturally step into that role. Yeah.
Yes. So yes, I'm gonna go with Snow White.
A mature,
Three Stooges.
Orderly, keep us in line. Yeah,
exactly.
That's good.
I'm trying my best.
John.
Let's be honest. Without Jody, we're about one edit away from getting canceled.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So we need her, and she's not here. So I'm trying to keep on my best behavior. So that's my answer. I'm sticking to it. 1961 American comedy fantasy, Snow White and the Three Stooges.
Wow. Okay. Haven't seen that particular Snow White film, but must have been some of Walt's better work if he captured the Three Stooges. And
I had a record of the Three Stooges.
Well, it was a 20th Century Fox, so Walt probably wasn't involved, but he did give him the rights to Snow White. So technically, yeah.
So I guess Disney adjacent.
Snow White's like a Grimm fairy tale. He doesn't own Snow White.
It is, but it's funny. It's based on Snow White by the Brothers Grimm.
Huh.
Good pick, Gene. Wow. And I don't know if you guys ever read a lot of the Grimm stories. They're actually really good.
Yeah, they don't end like we think they end.
They don't, because it's like life. Get used to disappointment.
To be honest, what I've discovered is, low expectations are the key to life, right?
Wise words.
Yeah, because then you either don't make it and you didn't think you would anyway, or you get to exceed it easily. Wow. Okay, so all right, so Snow White and the Three Stooges. I'm gonna go in a different direction, and I can't pick one, as it turns out. So Sword in the Stone, which is the 1963 film. I love that movie. So it's really just so fun. I remember as a kid watching it all the time on the Disney Channel when I finally was able to convince my parents to spend the $6 a month or whatever it was for that. So luckily it came in a package with the local sports channel, so my dad was good with it. But no, Sword in the Stone I think was just an awesome movie. I think the animation is cool. I love all the characters, the plot, just everything about it is fun. And I think that doesn't get a ton of love, which it should. But the other one I was going to say is the 1960 movie Swiss Family Robinson. I love that.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's just so awesome. The family gets shipwrecked there. They build their whole awesome house and everything. It's really cool. I don't know. There's nothing really scandalous about it at all. You can watch it with kids. It's a fun movie. And I like that era of film. Because I think last time when we talked about the 50s, pretty sure I mentioned Treasure Island from Disney as one of my favorites. And for whatever reason, this one just reminds me of it. Maybe because they're on an island in the middle of the ocean or whatever. But yeah, I love this film. I think more people should love it as well. All right. Let's talk about some of our favorites.
Okay.
Gene, what do you think is your favorite movie from the 60s?
Probably Swiss Family Robinson. But again, I've got several written down, just so many great memories. I think I've said this on the podcast before, that my little sister recorded Mary Poppins on a VHS tape from the Disney Channel. And she watched Mary Poppins over and over and over and over and over again. And so I probably can sing along with every song, and not because I tried, because it was just on all the time. And, it's a special memory. The Parent Trap, that came on all the time. And Haley Mills, who, was in a bunch of stuff in the that era, and then she ended up doing stuff as an adult. Superstar, and then a special one that I don't know if any of you have ever seen, but Lieutenant Robinson Crusoe, USN. You ever seen that? Mm-mm. So it's kind of a modernization of Robin Crusoe with Dick Van Dyke was a sailor who was stranded on an island, and it's just like I said, a modern retelling of that story, and it's a good movie. I just special memory of that.
Did they base that on Castaway?
I think Castaway was loosely based. I think
was that film based on Castaway? Tom Hanks, Russell.
Say that one more time.
I said, was that movie based on Castaway?
Well, it was way before Castaway, so probably not.
Was it?
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know.
What if the time travelers did that,
exactly.
Right? And then they changed things, so we don't know that they did that.
Exactly. So if I'm thinking, Russell,
that's, I guess that's valid. Maybe
it's a concern, and it could have happened.
Is it?
Yeah.
People think of time being in a line. It's more of a squiggly thingamajiggy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Time's not linear like people think it is, right?
It's kind of like the world being.
Yeah. I mean, it almost seems like we all indulged in some things that were very common in the 60s, the way this episode's going. So, all right. So I am going to, let's see, Gene just went. So Lonnie, we're going to go to you. What?
I'm going to go with one answer because I'm going to do what Gene didn't do and name the bunch, but I will agree with him with supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. You know what I'm talking about. Mary Poppins, I think it's my favorite. Watched it a whole ton. It was always on. Look, quick, right? Gene already said it. Julie Andrews, Dick Van Dyke. The budget was $4 to $6 million. It made $103 million. Big hit for Disney, right? Huge hit. So that movie, I think, and I even like the remake, right? So I was kind of.
Is it a remake or a sequel?
It's you know what? Technically, they should call it a sequel.
It's Mary Poppins, right? Is what you're talking about?
Yeah, Mary Poppins.
No,
yeah,
Mary
it's
Poppins
a sequel.
Returns.
Yeah, it's a sequel because it's the boy's son. The boy in the original movie.
Right, it is, yeah.
And the name is Mary Poppins Returns.
Yes, that gives it
life. Thank you so much. See, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was thinking about the original in the 60s. And you're right, man. So when they do the next one, is it Mary Poppins Returns Again? What's going to be the name of the next one?
Guess who's back? Back again. Mary's back. Okay.
Tell a friend.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think Mary Poppins was my favorite. Watched it a whole bunch. Like to Gene's point, loved the singing, the dance, and the Dick Van Dyke thing. I was kind of bummed. At one point they had speculated about putting a Mary Poppins, some kind of attraction in Epcot. Remember that? I was looking forward to that. You canceled that. But yeah, I guess that was a blue sky concept. But
it's a jolly holiday with Mary.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Mary Poppins. I'm gonna go with that. 1964 musical fantasy comedy.
Man,
that's good.
I am going with the same thing. I love Mary Poppins. And like you said, I mean, the Mary Poppins Returns I thought was amazing as well because the music in it was awesome with Lin-Manuel Miranda doing the music for it. And just everything about it was great. But the first one, that was one of the first movies I remember like knowing all the words to songs when I was a kid. And it like helped kind of get me into Disney and music and all that kind of stuff because the songs were so catchy and fun. And like the Sherman Brothers, I think are just, they're up there with Alan Menken as some of the greatest songwriters in the history of movies. Like they just so many good tunes. But on that one, like I always love that song, The Life I Lead, that when George Banks comes home from work and he's singing about I got my pipe at 6:02 and he's that type of thing. It just I love that song. So no, just overall, I don't know. I think Mary Poppins is to me by far like it's that, and then several steps below is like Swiss Family Robinson and Sword in the Stone.
I mean, Mary Poppins is great when even Zandu running around saying he's Mary Poppins, y'all.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, plus, like when you can tell your kids to take their medicine with a spoonful of sugar, helps the medicine go down. You know,
What?
yeah,
What? Mhm.
it helps. It helps when you can sing catchy tunes. Plus, yeah, Julie Andrews. I mean, she was great in that, and she was even that launched her whole career too because she that was I think one of her first movies.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was one of her first ones.
Which
Jeff
a
can
similar
fact check.
movie that's not a Disney movie is Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which is a favorite movie that I had that record when I was a kid. Great movie. You'd think it was Disney, but it's not.
You would think it's a Disney. You're absolutely right, but you know what?
Do you know who wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? Do you know who wrote that book? Because I had that book too.
You had that. You had that book.
Yeah, the creator of James Bond, Ian Fleming.
Wow. Well, that's fun.
I don't know that the listeners were prepared for all the education they're getting today.
No, I don't think they were.
But even if they're not, sometimes you just have to bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and we definitely brought it, and we'll bring it again next week, I think, too. But hopefully our listeners can come on to our Facebook group and let us know what movies they think we might have missed. Anything that you loved from the 60s that we need to talk about, bring it to the group, and let's see what other people think about it, too. Because I'm excited to go check out some of these books or movies like Follow Me Boys. And Lonnie, you got excited.
Man, I can't wait till we get to the 70s. Man, I got some movies for the 70s.
Really?
Yes.
I haven't looked that far ahead.
Hey,
I'm excited for the
I have
90s.
one more movie that nobody mentioned that is a classic. It launched a whole series, and that's The Love Bug. How can we leave
Herbie?
out?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I actually had that as one of mine as well previously. But I
Overrated?
didn't say it because I went by the rules and only did one. But I did have Herbie as well. The Love Bug. Yeah, got it here. Looking at it.
I thought that one was a little overrated, to be honest.
Hey, you're free to feel that. You're free to be wrong.
Right. Oh man. Any other movies that you guys can think of that we should have talked about but didn't?
So it's listed as a
That were,
movie,
like,
but
close
it's
up
actually
to our
just a repackage of the 50s, late 50s serials, but the Zorro. It was a Zorro movie, and I really, really liked Zorro as a kid. But I don't know that it's fair to include that because it was, like I said, just a repackage of the 50s serials.
I don't remember seeing the Zorro movie, but I remember watching Zorro as a kid. It's kind of in that Lone Ranger type genre. I love that stuff. I'm surprised nobody brought up The Parent Trap.
I did.
You did?
I talked about it. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
When I took one of the 6 movies that were my favorites.
Oh, okay. So you did. I'm sorry. I take that back then. We did talk about Parent Trap. Okay. Awesome. Well, I think that was fun. I like talking about the movie decades because a lot of these movies I've never even heard of. And I think it's going to be fun to go start checking them out. So I think I'm going to start with Follow Me Boys that you mentioned, Gene, because that one sounds really good. Yeah. And we'll see where we go from there.
Some people have a hard time going to black and white
older movies. For the 70s.
Hey, John, are you okay? Like, you like old movies? Like, I worked with somebody one time that for a business, like a conference, they used clips from a war movie. And the guy, my friend, had a really hard time with it because he said, I just can't watch these black and white, 40s and 50s movies. And Follow Me Boys is black and white, and I believe. And that's, if my memory serves me correct. And I don't have any problem with older movies. I think they're awesome, but some people just do,
I would struggle with black and white, like even Clerks, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. Sometimes it can be hard for me to watch. It depends what frame of mind I'm in and stuff. But yeah. Well, I'll give it a try.
Think about some of these movies now that came out in color, but they release a black and white version of it. What do you think about? Do you watch those?
No.
Really?
Yeah, I don't want that.
Oh, I understand.
I like a vivid picture.
I was just asking.
Yeah. But no, I like older movies, but not like black and white movies. If we go back to the mid to late 60s and that type of thing, I guess. Whenever that started. All right. Well, let's start trying to quack up a little bit. Lonnie, do you have a joke to try to make us quack up tonight?
I don't know if I will, but I'll try my best. Why can't leopards hide?
I don't know why.
Because they're always spotted.
Nice. Gene, what do you got going on?
Yeah, I was thinking about this a while ago. Do you know anybody with a photographic memory?
No.
I don't really. I'm wondering, are people born like that, or does it take time to develop?
Oh man, I thinking about the 60s, and I was wondering, why didn't the lifeguard save the hippie? Because he was too far out, man.
Too far out, man.
Yeah, too far out.
Is that Freedom Rock, man? Turn it up.
Yeah, basically, yeah. All right, so thank you everybody for listening this long. Like Lonnie said, without Jody on, it can go in a lot of different directions when we don't have those guardrails set up for us. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, come over to our Facebook group, Disney with the Ducks. Let us know your thoughts on the movies of the 60s. And other than that, I'm going to say Kwaharini.
Hey, Gene, why don't you take us out, sir?
While we hope you enjoyed our nostalgic journey through 1960s Disney movies, we must warn you, Lonnie's movie picks were about as exciting as a snail race with sleepy snails. Side effects may include an uncontrollable eye rolling, sudden nap urges, and a strong desire to watch something more thrilling. Remember, Lonnie's taste in movies is like a slow motion rewind button. Proceed with caution, and may your Disney movie nights be filled with magic, not yawns. And for our younger viewers tuning in, buckle up for a trip to the Disney vaults. These movies are antique treasures that may include feelings of vintage wonder. Side effects may include a sudden urge to raid your grandma's attic for more relics and a deep appreciation for the golden age of animation. We understand if some of our younger viewers are scratching their heads, wondering if these movies were made in the Mesozoic era. Fear not, young ones. Consider this your crash course in Disney history, where old is the new cool and black and white films are like rare collector's items. So grab your popcorn and enjoy the timeless magic, even if the movies are older than your parents' record collection.
Nice. Peace out, everybody.
Adios.
So Disney with the Ducks, oh, what a show, covering Disney magic wherever we go. From trips to tips, we've got it all. John, Jeff, Jody, Lonnie, Kevin, and Gene standing tall. DuckTales, woohoo! Every episode is something new. DuckTales, woohoo! Join us for Disney adventures, it's true. Marvel, Star Wars, and classic tales, we dive deep into all the details. Race recaps, music, and movie fun with our crew, the Disney magic's never done. DuckTales, woohoo! Every episode is something new. DuckTales, woohoo! Join us for Disney adventures, it's true. Trips, tips, restaurant reviews, Disney World resorts, we share our views. From Magic Kingdom to Galaxy's Edge, Disney with the Ducks is the podcast ledge.